Hi, Jen here. I will show you a step-by-step, very detailed, everyday makeup routine using drugstore products. I will start with my primer to give it some time to settle into my skin before going in with my second primer and foundation. Primer I will be using is the L'Oreal Pro Matte Infallible Primer. I'm using this because I have oily skin, so if you have dry skin, I recommend you going in with a hydrating primer. And I try to press it into my skin. I'm going to use a loose setting powder to remove the oils from my eyebrows because I do get oils there, and I'm using the CoverGirl loose powder in the shade Translucent. For my brows today, I'm using the Milani Precision Brow in the shade Ebony, and I love this pencil because it has a spoolie on one side, and on the other side you have the micro brow pencil, which I think is beginner friendly. And what I do is brush my brows hairs up, and then I follow the natural shape of my brows. I do not go heavy-handed when I do that step. So like I said, I go pretty gentle when I do my brows because I want them to look natural, and after that I go in with the spoolie again to brush the product into my brows. To conceal my brows, today I will be using the LA Girl Pro Conceal Concealer in the shade Toffee. I'm using a flat concealer brush to clean up my brows. And I'm going to drag this concealer down towards my eyelids. I'm blending in the middle of my brows. Now, for eyeshadows, today I always do eyeshadows even on my everyday makeup looks, but I keep it very simple because this is what I love. I love eyeshadows. So I am going to use the same concealer as a eyeshadow base. This is gonna help with the eyeshadow longevity and prevent creasing. And let's say you're just starting out, you can always set your concealer with some translucent powders. There's some people that love to do that, but I personally go in directly on my eyelids with the eyeshadow because I get the most out of my eyeshadows when I do that. If you're just starting out, I would recommend using the loose powder before going in with eyeshadows. Okay, the eyeshadow palettes I want to use today are from NYX. So here I have the Ultimate Sugar High palette, and this one is the Ultimate Utopia palette. I think I'm only gonna use the Ultimate Sugar High palette because it has pretty much everything I need in one palette. First, I'm going in with this brown eyeshadow here, and I am placing this on my outer V. Just make sure your edges are well blended before going in with eyeshadows if you did not set it with translucent powders. So remove all creases first. I'm gonna place this in my outer V. The outer V is this area here. I'm gonna place this right here. I'm using a fluffy brush from Morphe. This is the M441 brush. Next, I'm going to use a smaller blending brush. This is the M456 by Morphe. It's a smaller blending brush, and I'm going to use this shade right here. I will be using this shade to blend the edges of the first brown shade. And if you're a beginner in eyeshadow, I do have a detailed eyeshadow tutorial for beginners that I will link just over here for you guys to check out. Okay, so we're almost done with the eyes. Going in with a little shader brush by BH Cosmetics, and I'm using the lightest matte shade from the palette, which is this one here. And I'm gonna apply this all over the space that is left here. Now that is done, I'm going back with the first deep brown shade to bring it back in and blend everything together. And that's it. I hope it wasn't a lot for you. Now, going in with my second primer, I'm using the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer, and I'm going to use this. Again, I am gonna press it in. I love using this primer because it adds longevity to my makeup because it grips my makeup, my foundation. For foundation, I will be using two foundations. I will be mixing the Maybelline 24-Hour Superstay foundation with the Dream Urban Cover. They are both, no, it's not true. This the Superstay is in Warm Coconut 356, and the Dream Urban Cover is in Cappuccino 340. And the reason why I'm mixing those two together is because this one is super matte. In winter, my face is less oily than in summer, so I like mixing hydrating and super matte foundation from time to time. This is giving beautiful coverage, and one thing I don't do is go with the foundation underneath my eyes directly, because I think it creates too much makeup buildup when I go in with concealer. Oh, and yeah, I do also use the foundation sometimes to clean the top part of my brows if I'm looking for a sharper look. Now I'm going in again with my LA Girl Pro Concealer as my first concealer. I like to do this method because I feel like when I go in with the lightest concealer first, it gives a grayish look. So I like using one that is close to my complexion first, and then use the lighter one to highlight. Looking on the camera, it looks light, but trust me, it's not light. Not as light as I would like it to be, so yeah. And to blend this out, I'm using my e.l.f. Camo Sponge. Love this stuff. I like to blend the edges of my under eye concealer first because it's gonna give more time to the concealer directly on my eyes to dry a little bit, because it's gonna add a little bit more coverage by letting it sit just a little bit more instead of going straight and blending it out. I like to look up on a mirror so I can really get under my eyes. Next, it's going to be my first time using this concealer. I hope it doesn't do me dirty. It's the Rimmel, the Multitasker Concealer, and this is in the shade Toffee. Wow, funny, like two Toffies, but it doesn't look the same color. Anyways, I'm digressing. So what I'm going to do, I'm just gonna put a tiny bit of that because, like I said, the second concealer's purpose is to brighten up under my eyes. I'm gonna put a tiny amount here, and that's it. And while this is sitting, I will be cream contour. To cream contour, I'm using the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Define Concealer in the shade C17.5. And this is pretty pigmented, so I'm not gonna use a lot. And every time I say that, I always go super heavy. One dot here. On my chin. I'm going to use the excess that's on my cheekbones, on my forehead. Now it's time to blend the concealer that was sitting under my eyes, and I'm kind of scared because it looks like it dried down. Let me see. Okay, it's cool. And I'm going over the other places with the excess of the concealer, so it does brighten up a little. I am going to set my under eyes using the Maybelline Fit Me Pressed Powder in the shade Sun Beige. And I love this stuff. Usually I use a powder puff, but I don't have this with me, so I'm going to use this camo sponge again. And again, I blend the creases under my eyes before setting it. I cannot say that. And again, I like to look up to a mirror. And I'm also using that powder to set any areas I used concealer to highlight. Now that is done, I need to set the rest of my face. I will be using the NYX No Filter setting powder, finishing powder, sorry. And this is in the shade Deep Golden. I'm using also this powder to set my nose contour. I think it gives a less harsher look when I use my face powder. to do my nose contour. Now to bronze, I'm using my Revolution bronzer in the shade Ebony. No, not Ebony, sorry, Emerald. For blush, I'm using my Beauty of Colors blush palette, and I'm gonna use a tiny bit of this because it is very pigmented, and I will go in with the shade Daring, and I will be mixing the shade Daring with this one here, Audacious. Now on my lower lash line, I'm gonna go in with the deep brown shade I used earlier, and it is going to be the only shade I'm going to use. Okay, now that my bottom lash is done, I'm gonna do a little bit of mascara. Again, using the e.l.f. Lash It Loud. I am going to use my NYX lip liner in the shade Urban Cafe. One thing I forgot to do is set my face. I will be using the e.l.f. Stay All Night Micro Fine Setting Spray Mist or Setting Mist. Usually I do that before I do bottom lash mascara, but I don't have the choice now. I'm gonna cover my eyes and spray this. And next I'm going to use my Master Chrome highlighter by Maybelline in the shade Molten Topaz. I'm only gonna use this on the bridge of my nose, tip of my nose, and Cupid's bow. In my inner corners too. For lipstick, I'm using the Maybelline Superstay Matte Ink lipstick in the shade Driver. And I'm using my Morphe Chill lip gloss. You know what? Not. I'm going to use my clear gloss from the beauty supply store. I like to put it on my finger. I used a tiny bit of my Rimmel concealer in the middle of my lips, just to brighten up a little. All right, you made it to the end of my very detailed step-by-step drugstore everyday makeup tutorial. I really hope it was helpful to you. If it was, give this video a big thumbs up. And if you're not part of my family yet, subscribe and join the squad. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you all on my next one. À bientôt. Bisous.